So good morning. Welcome to the Bridge webinar series at Michigan State University, hosted by the Masters of Educational Technology program. My name is Michelle Schira Hagerman, and we're here this morning to talk about digital games and learning. Just a little bit of information about the Bridge. It's a webinar initiative really designed to highlight the great thinking and leadership that the Masters of Educational Technology at Michigan State University can provide related to education, technologies, and pedagogical practice. And we have an all-star lineup of guests this morning. I'm going to let the gentlemen introduce themselves in a couple of minutes, but I'm hearing feedback, sorry. Do we?
Somebody has their computer on speaker.
Okay, sorry for the interruption.
That's okay, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I was going to say that we have an all-star lineup of guests this morning. Colin Gallagher is joining us from Singapore. Mete Akcaoglu is joining us from Virginia this morning. And Rohit Mehta and I are joining in from East Lansing. Spencer Greenhalgh may join us in a minute. He hasn't come into the group yet, but I'm sure he will as he is able to do so. So why don't I stop talking for a second and allow our guests a few minutes to introduce themselves before we really get into this conversation this morning about digital games and learning. Colin, why don't you go first?
Sure. Thanks a lot for having me. My name is Colin Gallagher. I'm currently here in Singapore working as a technology integrator at an international school. Before that, I was working in Hong Kong for 3 years, and then before that, I was in Germany, and all three schools have held a technology integrator kind of role. Originally from Ireland, I've lost my accent along the way somewhere. I don't know which country it ended up in, but I'm here in Singapore now. I'm an Apple Distinguished Educator, Google Certified Teacher, all those labels and monikers that go about the teaching world. And currently very involved in games-based learning in our school right now.
Thanks, Colin. Do you want to take a second to talk a little bit about the work that you do with games?
Sure. Yeah. So we're working specifically with the game Minecraft in grade 3 for the last 2 years, and actually just this week we're wrapping up our first Minecraft project with grade 2, so we've gone down a grade as well, just testing the waters. We started off using Minecraft in extracurricular activities after school, but after that we basically wanted to focus in on how we can use it in our curriculum. So we're an international baccalaureate school, so that's an international curriculum, very popular with international schools, and it's transdisciplinary units set throughout the year. There's about 6 units during the year. So, for example, in grade 3, it was a systems and communities unit that we kind of built Minecraft into the curriculum, and in grade 2, it's a structures and buildings unit of inquiry that we've incorporated Minecraft into. So it's got to make sense. It's got to be relevant. We just don't throw it around and try to fit it in. We actually go through the planning phase first, obviously, and communicate with the teachers, have a group meetings, and plan it out. So yeah, it's going well. I can talk a little bit more about it later on in more in depth.
Thank you for that introduction. Mete, why don't you introduce yourself and your work as well?
Hello, everyone. My name is Mete Akcaoglu, and I'm an assistant professor of instructional design and technology at West Virginia University in the Department of Learning Sciences and Human Development. We just changed our name. I am a recent graduate of Michigan State University Educational Psychology and Educational Technology Doctoral program. Actually, I just finished in July, and I've started working here in August. So it's been a semester and a half in my current job. In terms of research, and this is something I've been working on for the last 2-3 years, I'm looking into the effects, or like, I don't know if you want to call it impacts, of learning how to design games on young children's cognitive and motivational, or let's put it this way, cognitive and motivational outcomes as a result of learning game design. To this end, I have been offering after-school or summer game design programs. I started offering these in Istanbul, Turkey. I offered two courses during the summers of 2011 and 12, and they kept going. And in fall, we actually offered a bunch of these game design courses in Lansing, Michigan, and currently we've just started in Morgantown, West Virginia, at a public school here, an after-school game design program. So, basically, my research, in my research, I look into what children learn during and as a result of being engaged in game design tasks.
Thanks, Mete. I just need to talk to Rohit for a second.
Technically. Yeah, I can see there like some technical issues.
Can you check the back channel also? I don't think it's live streaming.
Okay.
Thanks. Sorry. Technical things.
That's okay.
Rohit's here to help with the technical side of things. I wanted to mention also, before we get into the conversation, because we do have some substantive questions that we're going to talk about through the conversation this morning. But I wanted to just mention that people are welcome to participate if you're following us live online, to participate at #MAETBridge on Twitter. We also have an embedded TitanPad or Etherpad at bridge.educ.msu.edu. So people can certainly follow us there as well and contribute questions. And Rohit's going to be monitoring those questions so that we can bring them into live conversation as well. All right, so I've got some questions for you this morning. Thanks so much for providing some framing, right, for this conversation on digital games and learning. I would love to start with a question about what the difference between making games and playing games really is. Mete, maybe you could address that question for us to start, and then Colin, I'm sure you've got some ideas too to share.
Definitely. So,
Sure.
and there is a great amount of work. There are tons of books about how actual playing games can be beneficial for young children and adults at the same time. But this new emerging field, actually based on early work on the impacts of programming on kids' thinking skills, recently people started working with these game design tasks as how they can actually encourage or impact students' cognitive skills. So the basic difference in this argument is, and I was thinking about it this morning, it would be like talking about how reading books can impact someone's motivation or skills in comparison to writing books. Mm-hmm. So when you actually start designing things, the task of design in and of itself is a huge problem solving. So when you start from scratch, you all of a sudden are in this open field of an ill-structured problem. You have a goal, you don't know how to get there, and there are multiple things that you can use, but this is, again, an open-ended design problem. So I think the biggest benefit of engaging kids in design is getting them into a very meaningful and engaging task of design. And especially if we consider the fact that in today's world, designing things is a very important skill. Like if you look at mobile phones, the apps that actually look nice, that actually like function better than the others, they have a bigger audience. So giving young students this experience in such an important and cognitively demanding task early on puts them at a better place. And especially when we also consider the fact that, unfortunately, during normal schooling, there is a huge emphasis on standardized testing, heavy emphasis on teaching content knowledge. Unfortunately, at our schools, we cannot and we do not give our students to tackle these kinds of ill-structured and open-ended problems that they actually face during their daily lives. So designing games creates this very engaging and fun shell around such an important task that helps kids in a variety of different ways.
Colin, do you see that? You know, you worked a lot with Minecraft. Are your kids designing, code to supplement the game, or is the very nature of Minecraft sort of consistent with what Mete is talking about?
Yeah, I think the why Minecraft is so popular is that it does link in what Mete is saying. It gets your brain thinking. It's such a sandbox environment that the students once they get into it, and adults, I play it too. Once they get into it, it's like it's freedom, and it's the creative expression. It's a blank canvas. It's standing in front of a blank canvas, and your brain just has to go somewhere that it may not have gone before with, just as Mete was saying, just sitting in the classroom. Yeah, I've just started an after-school club with grade 4 and 5 students. We're going to dip into Game Salad, which is a pretty straightforward mobile game software. But I'm starting off really slow because I've realized that even trying to learn Game Salad myself, like I did programming back in university in 1999, and I don't. It's got bad memories for me. And looking at Game Salad, it's bringing me back. And I was like going, well, can these guys handle it? And so in my first lesson with them, I said, well, we're going to take it really slow here because I have to take it really slow. But you guys, it's free. Install it at home and try to learn the basics of it along with me in between classes, and let's try to come in every Thursday. Tomorrow we have our next class, and let's try and get our heads together and get our minds together on what we're actually doing here, what's involved. There's so many steps involved in code and designing a game. You have to have an idea for a game first, and then you just open up a whole Pandora's box of graphics, logic, loops. It's amazing. And a lot of people say that coding is immense for the future, for our kids to know right now. It's going to be needed. Right now, I don't think of that. I'm at the coal face, as you were, and I'm just thinking this is fun and it's a good skill to have. I don't know if it's going to be something that's going to be pivotal in their life, but I want to push them gently in that direction and kind of see where it goes. It's a learning curve for me as well. So
that actually brings up a question that I've been wondering about, Colin, so thank you for that. One of the questions, as I'm thinking about a teacher who's maybe never used games in their classroom, they're maybe feeling a bit nervous or skeptical or just sort of unsure, right, about where to begin or even what to sort of expect. Mm-hmm. What could you say to teachers about what that sort of maybe learning trajectory looks like, or even how to kind of create a learning environment or a situation that would enable the kinds of skill development that we've been talking about? And I also just want to say, hi, Spencer, welcome. It's nice to see you. Sorry, go ahead.
So I think when I think of Minecraft and its part in the gaming educational games arena, it's not in the educational games arena officially. It's not supposed to be an educational game. It's this indie game that's happened crazily, coincidentally, out of the blue by a guy called Notch. And so people's mindset of educational games might be of where in the world is Carmen Sandiego and all those classic games that we had, and very, very linear, very structured. You're pretty much reading facts and then you're answering questions and yada yada yada. So when Minecraft comes along, you've got this open-ended world, and you know, teachers may have heard of it and their children may play it, and they may play Minecraft as the adventure style game that it's known around the world for, and they may not see the connections between that and education. So having somebody in your school or educational establishment or whatever that kind of knows of its implications in education is obviously a good first step to have in your school. Getting a game-based project or activity after school outside of the curriculum is a very good first step to do in a school. It's got no pressure. You can test your hardware, you can test your Wi-Fi, you can do whatever you want to do, and you can be kind of laissez-faire about it. But it's got that's exactly what I did. I didn't want to put it into our curriculum straight away. I wanted to make sure the kids reacted to it properly and appropriately, and we actually did have some positive outcomes by using it. So the advice that I would give for teachers who haven't a clue what I'm talking about is that you know, inform yourself, educate yourself, ask the students. Obviously, they're the ones that actually know about it, and they know more about Minecraft every day that I haven't even encountered. So regarding like even programming software or Minecraft in particular, ask the students, get into the students' world, get into the students' head, ask them about it, figure out what they're doing in it, what do they like doing in it, and then have a look at your curriculum. If you've got it successfully done in an after-school club, have a look at your curriculum and see whether there's the flexibility there that can kind of extend the learning using Minecraft. The reason why Minecraft is so popular in education is because it's so flexible. You can use it in maths, you can use it in humanities, you can use it in science, you can use it in learning Japanese in a Japanese university. I've interviewed a guy, James York, who teaches Japanese in Minecraft. It's amazing the scope that you have to do and to work within Minecraft is great, and that's why it's so popular.
Can I add a
Mete, I was going to ask you, please chime
in. Colin's ideas. I fully agree with what you say, and I think in addition to what you say, I think two things are very important when someone wants to use these tools in an educational setting for other educational purposes. For example, Minecraft and like other game design software, their main purpose is obviously to create games or to play games, right? So if you want to add this external other goal on top of that, that requires first the teacher or the person who's going to do the integration know this tool really well. So you have to know, you should give yourself a little bit of time to play with it, to know the limits and to know its affordances. How is it going to help you to reach your curricular goals? And that actually brings me to my second point, and this is something I witnessed before, and this goes to the TPAC framework and technology integration, what it is and what it is not in a broader sense. Sometimes, unfortunately, people think they can get students into a classroom and get them design games, and then they expect miracles out of this process, and they think this is technology integration. And in fact, it's not. It does not necessarily add to amplify the current setting in a way that technology should amplify. For example, I have seen game design courses where the main goal was to get students to think about math, which is a holy goal, but what ended up happening was kids creating these arcade games, 2D arcade games, where, for example, it was a maze, right? It was a maze game like Pac-Man, but the maze itself was in the shape of a 4, number 4, plus number 2, and equals 6, right? So that was your math integration into a game. So it totally is contrary to the heart of, to the main idea of technology integration. It was such an I think they call it exodus, or like external way of thinking about it. I was teaching kids how to design games yesterday, and I think, and correct me if I'm wrong if you think otherwise, a better meaningful way to integrate math into game design was this. So these were 7, 8-year-olds, very young kids, and we're teaching them how to design their first game. So they created a tree, and the tree needed to create apples every X many seconds. So I had not decided on the seconds. So the game design program only allows you to choose numbers from 5 seconds, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then from 5 it goes up to 10, 20, and like 50. So I asked them to make the tree create apples every 8.5 seconds. So that required them to think about, okay, so I have 5, what else do I need to get to 5.5? So then there was like a little bit of thinking. I saw them thinking like about what to add onto 5. So, you know, and just to sum up, I think 2 things. First, give yourself a little bit of time and play with this tool. And second, don't really just like creating a maze out of a 4 and a 2 equals 6 is not necessarily integrating or like using games to teach math, right?
Right.
So,
right.
So yeah.
Right. Well, actually, Mete, that actually brings up a question that Liz on Twitter has asked to the panelists, and maybe Spencer, since you haven't really had a chance yet to introduce yourself or to respond to many of the questions. You know, this might be something that you can address specifically. Liz actually asks about what specific types of digital games lend themselves more to certain content areas than others. You know, maybe another way to phrase that question would be, you know, what sort of natural sort of links do you see between the games that you're familiar with or the games that you're designing in particular content areas? You know, Spencer, what do you think? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah,
Feel
definitely.
free to introduce yourself too before you answer.
Sorry for the late joining. I had some technical problems on my end.
Not at all. We're glad you're here.
Thank you. So I'm a first-year student in the MSU Educational Psychology and Educational Technology doctoral program. As a first-year student, my research is still kind of in the beginning phases, but I'm what I'm really excuse me, what I'm really interested in is the use of games to create more authentic learning environments, and there are a couple ways I'm interested in that, but we'll see if we can work it into the conversation instead of distracting you from the question. So Liz is asking about certain kind of games that lend themselves to content areas, and I'd like to sort of transition from what Mete was talking about. I think he said 2 things that can really help us with that question. The first is the TPAC framework, which suggests that when applying technology in the classroom, you have to take into consideration how it fits in with the content that you're working with and how it fits in also with the instructional strategies that you're working with. And then a second thing that he said, he talked about the best way of integrating math into a game. And it's kind of interesting. So I come to this field from the background of a board gamer. That's actually where a lot of my passion is. And there's this sort of debate in the board gaming community about the role of theme versus the role of mechanics. And I think that's something important to keep in mind. And let me explain a little bit what I mean about that. There's one of the first books I read on this subject was about non-digital games in classrooms called Libraries Got Game. And one of the things that it discusses is a game that I think was called Oregon, that is about the settling of the American West. And so the author said, you know, social studies teachers maybe the ones who are first interested in this game because it appears to be about the American West. It appears to fit in with these certain content areas. But if you look at the way the game actually plays, you're playing on a coordinate grid. And so while the theme is associated with social studies, the mechanics of the game, the way that the game actually works, gets you thinking about math and how things might fit on a graph, X and Y axes and things like that. And so what I would suggest to Liz and to other people is that while theme is an important consideration to keep in mind, but I think it also might be, like Mete said, you can have a Pac-Man game that has a math theme to it, or you can have a game that gets you, in order to play, you have to be thinking about how math works. So what I would suggest, I'm giving kind of a general answer to this because while I think there are specific kind of games that lend themselves to certain content areas, I think the most important part is for teachers to be able to look at a game and examine what kind of skills it's asking of its students and to make their decisions based off of that. So just because there's a popular line of games called Civilization, for example, just because it's themed around world civilizations doesn't necessarily mean that it's well fitted for a social studies class. But the fact that it's asking you to take the role of one of these civilizations and deal with factors that historical civilizations have had to deal with, then that might be a better indication that, yes, in fact, the game is well suited for a history class. I'm not sure if that exactly answers Liz's question, but that's the big advice that I would give.
Thanks.
I think
Colin?
that, I think I'm looking at Liz's tweet, and she's saying about games designed specifically for education versus indie games repurposed as well. I've got a big. I always had a big problem with games specifically made for education. They just never worked for me or for the schools that I've worked in. The thing about Minecraft and to a lesser extent when Valve made Portal 2 free for schools, the fact is that they were normal games and they were made without a finishing line of education. You know, there was no learning outcomes by the game designers. They didn't care. They just wanted to make their idea come into fruition. And so, seeing students play those games and the fact that they're so flexible and moddable that teachers can use them in a variety of different ways lends to the kind of argument that indie games that are not made for education, that are repurposed and kind of modded and messed around with by teachers, are a better fit for our schools and our students nowadays. The recent one that's been modded currently is the Kerbal Space Program game, which is just so yeah. There's a Edu mod that you can get for it now. It's currently just in beta, and I got a link to it yesterday, and I haven't played it yet. But again, that's it's kind of tied strictly into physics and science, chemistry and stuff like that. I don't know. It's like you have to build a spacecraft to get your poor aliens off the planet, and it usually involves them in a sticky situation somewhere on the bottom of the ocean floor or something. But it's that sort of sandbox environment that, yes, sure, you have to build a rocket, but you can build it whatever the way you want to build it. And with the mod, I'm presuming you will actually learn along the way of doing it. And it's the same with the Minecraft mod, Minecraft EDU. It's basically tailor-made then. It doesn't strip anything away from the actual public game. It actually adds just a little bit ease of use to teachers who may not be familiar with the game and they may not be gamers. And I think it was Mete who said, take your time and get involved with the game. On the flip side of that, I'm the gamer in our school. I play games every night if I can. I don't have any children, so I can play games every night. So the teachers that I've introduced it to, they're not gamers. They came to my introductory session and played it, and they said, "Yeah, got it. Like, it's hard for me to play, but I get it, and I can see why we're going to do it." So it's not necessarily they don't have to get deeply involved in it. They can appreciate it and respect it as the game for education. But not necessarily. I think there has to be a gamer in your staff, perhaps, that has a little bit of insight into the games that are available out there. But actually, when it's introduced to your school, it's by somebody. The teachers can get to a certain point of comfort with it, and then kind of let it go. Let's take its natural course, but obviously keep in mind the curriculum and the learning outcomes and all that boring stuff.
Mete, do you have any thoughts about sort of games or even game design? Because I know that's really more your specialization, and how you could integrate that specifically related to certain content.
Right. And actually, I have my original research was, at least I tried to look into the impact of playing games on gaining skills, and then I ventured into this game design, and it's been fruitful so far. So I would add to my colleagues' points a couple of things. The first one, that's something I've both literature and research and theories supports, and something I've witnessed in my own experience is that especially young students, they get very excited, obviously, with playing or designing games. It is like a crazy engaging task, so you cannot top that. But that's also a problem, in the sense that if you are trying to teach them these other important skills like problem solving, or if you have a content goal that you have in mind, if the task is so engaging and if the connections are not that clear, what happens is most of the time students go play this game for, let's say, 30 minutes, and they certainly do not get the connection to the goal. For example, I have not played the Oregon Trail game, but I think if you don't make the fact that, let's say, your course objective is to teach them about these coordinates, right? If you don't make your activity so that the students have to decide and solve problems based on the coordinates, if that just becomes just one more thing in the game, unfortunately, and this goes to guided discovery learning, if you let them just purely discover things on their own in such an open-ended task, students might not get to the points that you want them to see. So I think the design of this environment really needs careful thinking and planning beforehand. So, for example, in my previous work, I tried to teach game design, problem-solving skills to students. And currently now I've tackled a different task. I thought, well, why not teach some scientific concepts like ecological awareness?
Mm-hmm.
So, and this might answer Liz's question as well. First of all, make that connection clear, because the task is engaging and students might not see the points. So in one task, for example, I will ask, and this is provided by Microsoft Code, actually, they have this lesson plan available. They talk about a salmon's life cycle. So students create a space simulating the life cycle of a salmon, like finding a place to lay eggs and then go grow. So while creating this world, they have to first understand the concepts behind and the facts behind a salmon's life cycle. They need to watch videos, read texts, so that they can emulate this and create a simulation of it in this game design software. So, and I think this was a long-winded answer, but the short one is that make the connections clear and don't necessarily trust the pure discovery process. Yes, it's good, but if you have some specific objectives, make sure you guide them to see those connections, and it's not bad.
And if I can step in there, I think it's this is an area where we can think about games in education in a way that more traditional classrooms might think about books or films in education. that these books or films can tell a story in a more engaging way than maybe a textbook can. But what the really important thing that's going on there is when the class sits down and reflects and discusses what's going on in the book, what's going on in the movie, and like Mete says, connects it back to the course objectives. And I think, as Mete suggests, that there's a little more potential to get lost in a game than there might be in a book or in a movie, which is a little more one track. It keeps you in the direction that it wants to go. And in many ways, the fact that games are so flexible it increases the student's agency, and I think there's a lot of positive things associated with that. But I'd agree, it's absolutely critical to have this period in the classroom where you're taking what you've learned in the game, what the students have done in the game, and then relating it back to the main points that you're trying to cover.
I'd like to actually jump in there with a connection to a question that Amelia has actually asked on the Etherpad. And I want to connect it, Spencer, to what you've said, to what Mete said, and to an observation that I've actually made at home with my own daughter, who's 8 years old and who is an emerging gamer, and she is crazy about Minecraft. But one of the things that I see her doing all of the time is integrating the other modes of literate sort of experience that she has. So she integrates ideas that come from books, that come from books, both fictional and non-fiction texts. She integrates ideas that she encounters in movies, and she integrates ideas that she encounters just in her life generally into the worlds that she creates in Minecraft. And so Amelia asked a question actually here on the Etherpad about how to sort of expand teaching of digital literacy at Ivy School specifically. So maybe, Colin, you can address that point. But I think this is something that I've really observed that teachers maybe wouldn't see if they don't have children at home sort of engaging in this really very multimodal digitally literate sort of practice. And in fact, last night in the car, as I was driving her to gymnastics, she said to me, "So, yeah, Mom, if my friends, and this is very interesting too, and I don't know whether we can talk to this as well about girls and boys and gaming, but what's fascinating to me also is that she said to me in the car last night, if my friends, my girlfriends, if they don't want to really play the stuff that I want to play, I'll just go and play with Lance and Hunter because they always want to play Minecraft at recess." And so they don't have like an iPad outside at recess, but their physical play is also inspired by the digital game, right? And so they build things on the playground in their imaginations together. And to me, that is like massively amazing, right? Like developmentally, they've been like completely influenced by this world that they're building together. I don't even know. What do you think, Colin?
Well, back in my day, if I was influenced by a movie, I'd draw a picture of it. I used to love getting my markers out and drawing pictures of cowboys and Indians and stuff like that. And right now, because Minecraft is so immersive and it's such a sandbox for these children, it's of course it's going to mesh in with normal life and other cultures. If you look on YouTube, you'll see remakes of the Starship Enterprise. You'll see Game of Thrones remade in Minecraft. It's crazy. It's fantastic. It's part of culture for these kids, at least, Minecraft. And to a certain extent, it gets a little bit intrusive. Like the parents in my school really, jokingly, I must say, don't like me for introducing Minecraft, but they keep on reminding me about it. But we do have sessions with the parents every year about living in this lifestyle at home. And I know it's hard as a non-parent like me talking to you as a parent about moderation and keeping a healthy balance. Get outside, do whatever you want to do, read a book, blah 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 blah. But it doesn't surprise me that your daughter's doing that. It's great. I think it's fantastic. Like it's another part of her extension of her creativity and how to express her feelings and the learning she's got from a story or whatever. I'd love to recreate a scene from one of my favorite stories if I was a kid. Like Harry Potter Castle. Awesome. Let me make that. And exactly. You're taking you probably maybe have the book beside you and J.K. Rowling's describing the castle, and okay, I have to put 5 towers in the castle, and it's fantastic. I love hearing those stories. But yeah, I know parents from talking to me as well. Yeah, there's a bit of overkill as well with the use of Minecraft. Yeah, but Amelia was talking about. I'm looking at the question on the Etherpad about how to work in the games into a very prescribed curriculum, such as the IB. But I found it pretty easy, actually. In the elementary school, in the PYP, which is the primary years program of the International Baccalaureate, it's really, you can use a lot of tools and resources that are out there to assist your learning, basically, and your teaching. So I didn't really find it hard at all, actually, to incorporate. It's like every other tool that I use in whatever makes sense in a unit of inquiry. If we're doing a unit on media, right, let's use Bitstrip's online comic creator. If we're doing timelines, we can use Prezi. It has to fit into what we're doing in the unit of inquiry. And gaming wasn't such a big step because, as I said, we introduced it as an after-school club. The parents got used to it. Then we informed the administration, and everybody was on board, and everybody could see. And we invited the parents in at the end of the unit to play and see what they actually the students created and what they actually how it assisted their learning. So it wasn't that it wasn't that hard. She's saying her son is in high school, but I've heard stories from our middle school and high school where it's pretty open-ended. A lot of activities in the IB. If they want to create a skit for their summative assessment, they can do that. So Minecraft. I've seen Minecraft being used in the middle school. In our school, when they're doing a unit in humanities about ancient Egypt or something, or ancient civilizations, I've seen students create Egypt basically, and probably used it as a presentation tool. So sorry, but I didn't find it really hard to incorporate gaming in our curriculum.
Right, and actually, one of the students in my class last semester, he is an art teacher at a middle school. And he immediately realized the love his students had toward Minecraft. And again, the students didn't necessarily like what he was doing, like with the perspectives and all that in the regular art class. He's also a gamer, so that helped. So he decided to. So one of their tasks was to create a model of their school that needed to happen on paper. So that was the part of the curriculum. And then he cleverly decided that why not make this task in Minecraft? And all of a sudden, like, his students were really engaged. They didn't want to go out of the class. They wanted to stay over, like, during the break. And they created this amazing model of their own school. So they have, like, exact measurements, like the windows, the doors, like the flagpole and everything. Exact replica of their school in this digital form of art. So I think, like, adding to Colin's points and Spencer's, like, there are many opportunities, and these tools being so flexible, I think it's a great thing for us educators.
Thanks. There's well, I've got a lot of questions here too. We've got about 10 minutes left in our conversation this morning. Emilia did have a question specifically for Mete as well about your doctoral dissertation. Mete, I don't know if you can see the Etherpad or not. I don't know if you've got it up. But she basically says she read your dissertation. It's super impressive. She says it seemed like an amazing amount of work to conduct game interventions in so many classrooms in different countries. What advice do you have for doctoral students who want to do game-oriented dissertations?
Well, yeah, thanks for the comment. I did my best. It's full of errors, but it's I think it's the best that I could at the time. It is a great amount of work. For doctoral students specifically, if you want to do research on such things, it's not necessarily the easiest way to do research for a couple of things. And this, like, my comments here are going to be very practical. And so first of all, you're doing research with young students, and that requires a lot of steps to go through IRB. Like, you need to get their parents' approval. So that's a whole bunch of issues in and of themselves. The other side of things, after you've done all that, is to have a clear research question. So what is your research question? What you want your students to learn out of this game design or Minecraft program? And then how it's going to impact their, like, if you are going to look at the changes in their motivational perspectives. So first of all, you need to define what you mean by motivation. Are you referring to self-efficacy? Are you referring to value? Are you referring to interest? Are you referring to goal theories? So make that connection clear, and all of a sudden you actually you do have a very straightforward trajectory. So in my case, I wanted to look at students' skill development in system analysis and design, troubleshooting, and decision making. So that gave me a clear direction as to how to shape my curriculum. So I made sure that my curricular activities were based on theories in these fields and how I wanted to get there. And I created a bunch of activities that would help me get there. But again, the challenge is like offering this as an after-school or summer program. It's very it's intensive, and tying your dissertation to such an activity. Like, let's say my plan was to get my dissertation done during the summer of 2012. And then, since this is a voluntary activity, only 12 students sign up. So I was expecting like pretty close to 40. So then you don't have enough data. So it had to be, I needed more data. So it was such a fun experience, but tying to such a high stakes task was not necessarily making it fun during the process, because like one student misses a class and all of a sudden you're like, okay, how is this going to confound the results of the study? Or one student decides not to show up on the first day, so all right, one man down. Like, you don't have your pretest, and that, like, if the person gives you a post, that it's not going to be valuable for anything. So it's very it's challenging, but it's also rewarding in the sense that it contributes greatly to the field. And there's if you look at the journals, the research articles currently are being published on this issue of cognitive and motivational outcomes of learning game design. So there is like readership, like growing. There's a growing body of literature. So your work is well accepted, and when you make your research questions really clear, and that helps you design your curricular activities to reach those goals. And then you collect data through tools that actually are validated. You cannot just sit down and decide on a test that you think measures X and Y. That has to be validated. And then once you have all of those, writing up your research is not that difficult, actually, if you have like all of these set up nicely. But again, it's obviously like every type of, I'll say, dissertation research, because it's such a high stakes thing. Mm-hmm. It's challenging. It's very difficult. It's but you know, if you do your research on things that you personally enjoy. For example, writing the literature review was actually fun for me because I was fascinated by all that research that people before me did, and that I thought I learned a great deal by just reading those. So I think that would be the first tip. Just find something that you like, which is not always possible, and then go from there.
Thank you, Mete. You actually asked the question. I want to ask each of you sort of a question that kind of flips. We've been talking a lot about the advantages of digital games in classrooms and for learning. I want to ask each of you to share a story, and actually, Mete, I think you kind of answered the question just now. But the question really is to share a story where things may not have gone the way you expected, right? So, Mete, you shared sort of your sampling, right, story already about how when collecting data, right, there are challenges, things don't go the way you want them to, and you've got to sort of, rejigger your plans. Spencer and Colin, in your own experiences, have you had experiences with, digital games or other kinds of gaming activities in your classroom or after-school activities where things kind of blew up and didn't go the way you wanted? I think about this. Think about teachers, for instance, who are trying to sort of plan for contingencies. Like, what did you do when that happened?
Well, so it was actually this time last year, a few weeks into the semester, I was asked to take over a debate class at the school where I was teaching, and I was pretty excited about this. And about halfway through the semester, I decided to introduce a game. I was interested in getting these students to explore the ideas of what it means to be part of a society and to explore the role of government and laws and all these different things in their lives. And so I retooled, this wasn't a digital game, but I retooled a pen and paper RPG that the original point of the game is that you're a bunch of cavemen trying to organize a society and then just make it through the next winter or whatever. But I retooled it so that it would be an activity in which the students had crash landed on a desert island and had to survive and had to decide what kind of what kind of society they were going to build, what kind of government they were going to build. And a while into the class, I realized that the students weren't quite having the discussions that I wanted them to. It goes back to what we were talking about earlier about reflection and discussion. That's the big thing that I wanted to come out of this class, and it really wasn't happening. We had some interesting things go on in the class, but the students really weren't talking about it as much as I wanted them to. And so for the last couple of weeks of the class, I decided that it would be more important to actually stop the game and reflect just sort of on a big level about what we had done in the class and to discuss some of the decisions that different students had made. The students almost went to war a couple of times, and so I wanted to talk about that and connect it to the real world and see if we could get more of that debate and discussion that I was originally hoping to have in there. So that's one thing that I thought was really helpful. When the game wasn't going as well as I had planned, I decided that it was time to just stop the game and to move on to a different activity that I thought was going to still use the advantages of the game that we had been using, but to tackle it in a different way. And one advantage that I wish I had taken more, that I wish I had used more, was because I was using a non-digital game, I as the teacher had a lot of control over how the game worked in the classroom. And I think one thing that I should have done but did not do, and one thing that teachers using non-digital games might consider, is I had complete control to change the rules of the game, to change the situation, and to change the way that things worked, to tweak it so that it would lead to the situations that I was hoping to get. And that seemed a little manipulative at the time, which is why I never followed through on my thoughts to do it. But I think it would have been really helpful to just tweak the rules of the game, tweak the way that we were doing things so that it would produce a game experience that lined up more with the learning outcomes that we had in mind.
Colin, what do you think? Thanks, Spencer. What situation?
Yeah, I'm going to flip it around too, because you flipped it around. I'm going to flip it around too.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just going to keep on talking. So when you, my experiences with Minecraft, so I'm going to talk about Minecraft. A lot of times when you get a group of young children for the first time together in a digital realm, so imagine the excitement and chaos and happiness and every other emotion you can think of seeing their friends there digitally in a 3D environment. So that's one of the advantages, because it's a collaborative. It's always a collaborative project we do, but you're getting into a digital citizenship realm there too. And yes, it's a problem when it happens, but in my evil ways, I actually want it to happen, because it's a learning moment, and it's a learning moment in our environment. It's not a learning moment when they go out onto YouTube, which they are doing, and most grade 2 and grade 3 students in our school have YouTube channels. I've seen them, and they're out there. They're in this gray area of digital life that the parents may not know and we don't know about, and they're making mistakes by commenting and, you know, getting into flame wars and stuff like that, and being not who they are in real life. So when we see this happening in Minecraft, then we can control that situation, corral us all in, and basically include this digital citizenship and the rules we should have while we're online. So yes, it's something bad that happens. You know, it's, you know, once or twice maybe a student might do something, and it's never really crazy bad, but it's a great moment for us to actually knuckle down, get the class together, and actually talk about why that's inappropriate online, and, you know, why would we do that online when we wouldn't do it offline, face to face. So it's really, it sounds simple, but it gets that conversation started in early elementary school, and it's really valuable, I think.
Oh, that's such an important point. Thanks for making that point, Colin, because I do think that there is trepidation, right? Teachers who aren't sure about all of these contingencies do worry about that. They worry about keeping their children safe, their students safe online, and parents, of course, worry. But I think that your point about using it as a teachable moment and an opportunity to have those really meaningful discussions about digital citizenship is such an important point to bear in mind. Okay, last question for everybody. And we've got about 4 minutes left. So keep it to about a minute each. But the last question is, why do you do this work, and what is it about this work that makes you happy? Spencer, we'll start with you.
When I applied to grad school, I told a story about a board game I was playing with my brother-in-law, and the rules of the game were set up in a way that it was so it's a war game set during the Cold War, and the rules of the game were set up in such a way that it was advantageous for him to drop a nuclear bomb on his own city to attack my army, and that totally surprised me because it's not something you do in real life. And I'm involved in this work because, you know, games present these arguments that then let you explore ideas about the world, and it's almost a moral laboratory where you have to make decisions and push back against the rule of the game and decide what you're going to do as a player. I think that's just a fantastic way to explore the world that you live in and the person that you are. And I'm very interested in social studies, so the kind of citizen that you want to be, and the kind of way that you want your country to work in the world. And I love it. It's so much fun.
Thanks, Spencer. Mete, what about you? What makes you happy about it?
Right. And like I said before, reading on this topic is fun for me. I'm interested in this. I value it. I like it. So I personally really like studying this topic. But on the practical sense, for example, yesterday when I was teaching these 7-8-year-olds how to design games, like and that was probably for most of them their first line of code that they did. Like we reprogrammed this tree to create these apples at 8-second intervals, and then they hit play. So there's the constant immediate feedback. So you hit play, and then the tree produces the apple, and they're like, "Yay!" And you know, like seeing that accomplishment that you don't normally see in a regular learning environment. Like you, or you might see it, but this is, I don't know, like you take the ownership and create something, and seeing that is like actually working is such a rewarding experience to watch.
Thank you. Colin?
Well, I'm in it for the money.
Yeah.
I'm
Let us know where you're getting
Yeah.
As a teacher, like why I'm a teacher, I long for those moments with my students where 1 second they don't know something and the next second they know something, and those moments are why I get out of bed really slowly in the morning, but I get out of bed. And the reason why I do gaming in education, it harks back to what we were saying earlier. I'm a gamer. I'm a PC gamer, and I've been a gamer since my teenage years, and this makes sense to me. I know the feeling of when I was playing Portal 2, my brain got such a workout playing Portal 2, and the first time my brain felt that sensation. I play Portal 2. If you ever get a chance to play Portal 2, play it. Okay. But it's such a puzzler. It's such a brain activity game, and it's amazing. And I'm going to get a couple of grade 3 students in on Friday to play it actually. But I felt that accomplishment. I felt that reward. I felt that I achieved something. I felt that I learned something by progressing through the rooms, through the levels in this game, and I get that sense of accomplishment anytime I play a computer game, a good computer game. So that's why it's natural for me to try and fit these computer games into our curriculum. It's not happening with a lot of other games. Minecraft seems to be a very flexible game. You know, I can't figure out what other game will come along that will trump Minecraft for its flexibility. I don't know. Hopefully some other genius will come up with something, but
well, I think you've actually opened up a question for the subsequent sort of conversation that hopefully this conversation may generate online, right? You know, what's
right, yeah. What's left out there?
Right, and I know, Mete, you know, you've got probably some ideas about, you know, other platforms or games that, you know, teachers and students could use in classrooms. It's 10:01 according to my clock, and so I sadly have to call this conversation to a close, but I would like to thank each of you for joining in what has been an absolutely incredible and engaging conversation. I've learned a lot about game design, about, you know, how to integrate games effectively into classroom practice, how to make those curricular connections between your what you want to accomplish and what you want students to learn and games. I thank you so much for sharing your expertise and your enthusiasm for this topic. Just to remind listeners, we certainly can continue the conversation on Twitter at hashtag MAETBridge, and also at bridge.educ.msu.edu on the Etherpad. There are resources there that Colin, Spencer, and Mete have provided for follow-up. If you'd like to explore those, they're there and available to you. Thank you so much for your participation, and I wish, Colin, I wish you a good night, and Mete and Spencer, I wish you both a wonderful day.
Yeah, thanks for having
us.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.